I also would like to begin this event before I pass it over to Robin to acknowledge that I'm joining as a guest here in Nechechwem or Bowen Island in Howe Sound at Luxem, and am grateful to live, work, and play in the unceded, traditional, and contemporary territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the homelands of the Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh nations. You're all in different places, so I warmly invite you to acknowledge where you're joining us from in the chat. And today, the Parks Plus Collective is pleased to be supporting the Canadian Committee for the IUCN with their AGM and open house. The rough plan is to have the AGM and business and exciting news from Robin. A nature networking break will be before or after the update about the World Conservation Congress. We'll see how the timing works there. We'll learn about 30 by 30, some initiatives with a dashboard, and there will be a panel of the IUCN Commission work. With that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'll turn it over to you, Robin. Welcome and welcome everybody to the event today.
Thanks so much, Don. Thanks everybody for joining. Very lucky to be here in Gatineau in person with quite a few of our board members, hosted by the Canadian Museum of Nature. I'm going to turn it over to our host to say a few words about where we are.
Good day, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. The Canadian Museum of Nature resides on the traditional unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people who have stewarded this land for thousands of years. We acknowledge that the museum's scientific research occurs across Canada from coast to coast to coast on the territories of the Métis and First Nations people and in Inuit Nunangat.
Thank you. And thank you again for hosting us here.
You're welcome.
We're very lucky to get to be together in person for a little bit. All right, my screen's good. Okay, great. Welcome CCIUCN members to our 2025 AGM. We'll start off by with a motion to approve the minutes from our AGM last year. And I got Kate moving and Tanika to second. Thank you. And a vote should pop up on your screen. If you are not a member of CCIUCN, please do not vote. We're going to ask you to be honest. So that you should have a poll pop up now and you can answer that. Okay. Okay. So 2024 was a very busy year for the board. Great, motion passed. That's nice to have that pop up. Thank you, everybody. So 2024 was a very busy year for our board. As I'm sure many of you got to experience in person, we hosted a very successful Regional Conservation Forum. At the beginning of the year, the board set out a few key goals, and I'm very pleased to share that we made significant progress on all of them. CCIUCN is well governed and in good standing as a Canadian nonprofit. We engaged a consultant to do a review and needs assessment of our governance systems and policies. You'll hear more about how we're going to continue that in 2025. We worked to increase collaboration with IUCN commissions and other national committees. That looked like participation in the global group of other national and regional committees. It looked like having commissions come give updates at our board meetings, as well as representatives from the North American Regional Office, regular communications with the U.S. National Committee, something we hope to continue this year and grow even closer with them as we gear up for World Conservation Congress. And of course, our CF contributed to all of that. And I hope you'll all agree it was a very successful and engaging event that we had here in Ottawa at the Canadian Museum of Nature this past October. So looking ahead to this year, just a reminder of what we're doing and why we're doing it. Our mission is to work together to advance urgent conservation action and connect Canadians to the IUCN all for the vision of a world where Canadians value and conserve nature. So for 2025, our goals for CCIUCN are to have our members be well prepared to demonstrate Canadian conservation leadership and advance Canadian priorities at the World Conservation Congress in October, to have our members feel engaged and connected to the Canadian conservation community and IUCN, and to continue to ensure CCIUCN is well-governed and in good standing. So you'll be hearing a bit more from Meg about World Conservation Congress and what that event is going to look like and what our engagement is going to be. You'll be hearing from us a lot, and there'll be a lot of opportunities to engage around that event. So please stay tuned. And if you are going to the World Congress, we would love to hear about it. You can send us a message to info@cciucn.ca if you or your organization are planning on attending or sending anyone. And for member engagement, there's going to be additional opportunities, not just related to Congress, but related to other conservation work in Canada and commissions as well. We'll also be doing some work on our membership definitions and on our fee structure, working towards more comprehensive and equitable definitions of our different categories. And on the governance front, we are going to be continuing to work with a consultant to put together a comprehensive guidebook for CCIUCN so that we can continue to serve our membership as best as possible. So, and with that, I'll turn it over to Janika to give our treasurer's report.
How do you click it over to the next one? Okay, thank you. Hello again, everyone. I'm going to try to change the slide, Robin, which is this way.
Yeah, just click that arrow. Hit the arrow button.
I'm trying here. What am I doing? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Technology is a young person's game. I like to report on the state of our financials for 2024. We started the year at $58,518, and we ended the year at $44,234. The expenses that were seen this year were largely due to the cost of last year's AGM, COP16 engagement, and the RCF for the engagement with and for CCIUCN members in October. In terms of some updates, we did implement a new system for payment this year through Zephy, which I hope you are all familiar with. Because we were transitioning to this new form of payments, there are folks who may not have paid their membership fees for 2024. Thanks to those of you that have recently. If you haven't, please come check out the new Zephy platform and pay your 2024 fees. For this upcoming year, our budget is planned at roughly $25,000, which is higher than last year. And this is largely due to our participation in the World Conservation Congress coming up, as well as some secretarial support to advance our goals this year. With that, I will pass it back to our chair.
Thank you very much. So with all of this proposed work and extra engagement over the last 2 years, we're proposing a new fee schedule that will begin on April 1st, 2025. So a bit of motivation to pay your dues. If you pay before April 1st, you can pay the current fees, but anyone who doesn't get their dues in before then will then be subject to the new fees. It's been a number of years since we've raised membership dues, and as you all know, everything costs are going up everywhere. And I think with last year and this year with the RCF and the World Conservation Congress, we have a lot of activities to cover. So appreciate all of you doing your part, paying your dues, contributing to this great organization. So on to our next agenda item. We have some updates to make to our bylaws, and this came out of the governance review. Just 2 key pieces that we hadn't had in our bylaws, and they're helpful. So the first addition is a section on amending the bylaws, funnily enough. So that is, I'm not going to read this all out for you, but in summary, it's basically saying that for bylaws requiring ordinary resolution, so that's anything that doesn't relate to membership structure, the board can make that amendment and have it be active until the next general meeting of members, where it can be confirmed, where it's voted for. And then if it's not confirmed, then we can amend it or repeal it as necessary.
You have a hand up, Robin?
Oh, yes. Hand up. I have a hand up.
Oh, no, went down.
Oh, okay. Apologies. If there's any questions in the chat, can somebody in the room call them out? Thank you. Okay. So hopefully you've had sufficient time to read the bylaw. So can I get a mover to approve the addition and a seconder? Kate and Dolph, thank you. And you should have the vote pop up on your screen to approve that CCIUCN membership approves the bylaw on amending bylaws as present and presented and circulated. Okay, great. And the results should pop up in a second, hopefully. Okay, so the second edition is steps to dissolve the corporation. It sounds intimidating. It's not anything that we are considering doing, just to reassure everybody. It is just something that we needed to have in the bylaws that wasn't there. And it says the special resolution must be passed in order to dissolve CCIUCN, meaning that the board cannot just decide to dissolve CCIUCN. All of you, the membership, must be in agreement in order to do that. And the last motion passed. Thank you. So can I get a mover and a seconder for the approval of the bylaw 10.2 for amending bylaws? Kate moving and Andrew seconding. Thank you. And the vote should pop up for all of you at home shortly. Approved that CCIUCN membership moves to approve the bylaw on dissolution as presented and circulated. Right. Thank you, everyone. And with that, it's passed in favor. Excellent. That will be added into our bylaws and updated shortly. So with that, I will pass it over to Dolph to talk about our board nominations.
Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see you from coast to coast. Pleased to share an update. Robin's going to help me change slides because the keyboard's rejecting me. Okay, awesome. First of all, thank you to all of you who put your hand up and sought a role on this committee. It was amazing to go through the many talented folks, and we're pleased to add 4 folks to the board, or to recommend adding 4 folks to the board. You can see them here: Jesse, Megan, Ale, and Marianne, and they bring a mix of really great experiences. They represent amazing organizations and represent the geographic scope of our country. So we're really excited to have them as candidates to be on the board. So I'm actually going to look for a mover. Oh, Kate is quick. Danica second, to put them forward, and we'll bring the vote up in question, and we're really looking forward to working with these individuals and the chance to have them continue to expand our reach. So here's the motion here. We also want to say thank you to a few board members who had served. This does not work without incredible effort from volunteers from across the country. So grateful for all. So we'll just get that vote and I'll kick it back to Robin.
And a huge thank you again on behalf of me to our departing board members, Shuya Huang and Andrea Legrand. And the motion passed. Congratulations to our new slate of board members. Welcome to our 4 new members. Really excited to work with you, and I'm sure we're gonna get to accomplish great things over the next year. And with that, I'd like to adjourn the official business portion of our AGM today. I think we do need a motion for that from the room. We've got moved by Dolph, seconded by Tanika. AGM meeting officially adjourned. That's our formal business, but please stick around. We've got a lot of really wonderful presentations and conversations to be had yet.
Yeah, do you want to go to Meg and the WCC next? Does that feel right to you, Robin?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay.
If you're ready, Meg?
Yeah, I'm just going to promote Meg. Everybody can have a bit of a movement break. Look out off your screen, let your eyes relax for a moment. And while we get Meg into the hot seat here. There you are, Meg.
Okay, I'm in my hot seat.
Great. So yeah, welcome. It's the next portion here. So a presentation on the IUCN World Conservation Congress with Meg Beckel. Thanks for stepping in to present here, Meg. I'm going to mute my line and let you go for it.
Okay, and I'll just go into presentation mode. Oops, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Okay, well, hello, all you fellow CCIUCN members and guests. I'm pinch hitting for Tracy, who's actually online, but I'm pinch hitting anyway. Just to tell you a bit about the IUCN World Conservation Congress. This is a really important event that happens every 4 years, as most of you already know about. But it's really about setting the conservation agenda for IUCN, and we hope for the world, and certainly for the network of governments and NGOs that are committed to the program of work set out by IUCN. So I think it's important to know that Congress is about 10,000 of our closest friends gathering together, seeking ways to cooperate and collaborate in order to achieve a mutual desire for a more sustainable, natural future. You will see just in the terms of the global reach and impact that is facilitated or made possible because of such a gathering. And certainly since it's become hybrid and virtual, the reach of the IUCN World Conservation Congress has increased significantly because of the participation of members, of commission members, but also participation of the media. And of course, we can't do it without people to assist in sharing the word. It is a 7-day event, and I'll go into a bit more about what that involves. So Congress is really about setting the conservation agenda worldwide. And we do this through the Members' Assembly, through the forum, but through all of the many conversations, workshops, discussions, and debates that happen throughout Congress. As this slide indicates, many really important decisions have come out of the work of Congress, such as CITES, just on one, and certainly the Convention on Biological Diversity was another one that followed some really important discussions, decades ago at World Conservation Congress. But at the upcoming Congress, we expect that there could be at least 100 motions and resolutions that will be voted on. And that isn't all the motions that are voted on, because there are many that are voted on in advance of Congress. So Congress really guides IUCN policy, and IUCN policy guides the program of work that guides the entire union, and the union being made up of government members, NGO members, but also all of the participants in the commissions, the national and regional committees, as well as the secretariat. So who defines IUCN's policy? Well, the members define IUCN's policy. And they do this collectively by participating in Congress, by adopting decisions during the members' assembly. But who else guides IUCN policy? Well, council. And this is a council of elected representatives from around the world who really interpret policy. They interpret the resolutions, and they interpret and create guidelines that guide council. Also, the Director General and the Secretariat basically guide IUCN policy by implementing policy and by implementing the program of work that is voted on at Congress. The commissions also guide IUCN policy by providing expert findings, the technical and scientific inputs, but also by informing IUCN policy and positions through the various white papers and studies that are done in between Congress. But a lot of what happens at Congress, especially during the assembly, is all about the motions that are put forward for the assembly of IUCN members to discuss and debate. So what is a motion? I'll let you read the slide for yourself. But motions really either form a resolution which directs IUCN, and I repeat, IUCN includes members, the Secretariat, national and regional committees, and the commissions, or recommendations which are directed to third parties, but will affect the work of IUCN members as well. So the purpose of a motion really is to define the general policy of IUCN, but also to influence policies and actions of third parties as well. And speaking from experience, motions also guide the governance of IUCN. And one such policy was the amendment to the IUCN statutes that created the category of subnational members. And now we have a whole new category of people committed to the work of IUCN who have a voice at the assembly and have a voice within the union. So why are these motions so important? And it really comes down to, they're important because they guide the work of IUCN. They also guide the conservation agenda for the governments and NGO members of IUCN. They guide the program of work for the commissions, and they guide the program of work for the Secretariat, which means it's guiding the work of thousands of individuals and thousands of organizations. The other thing that's really important to know about motions is by submitting a motion, you're basically participating in the conservation agenda for the world. And it's really important that every individual that is either part of a commission or part of a national committee or a member of one of the IUCN members, that you're using your voice. You're using your voice, you're using your experience, and you're bringing that to bear in the decision-making that happens at the assembly. And a motion, as the list indicates here, can either be linked to the program. It could guide a commission mandate. It could address IUCN internal governance issues, but it also provides focus for collective and collaborative action among the members, among commissions, and civil society. Now, I'm not going to go through each of these buttons, but the motions is a process. And it takes time. And as many of you know, that the deadline for submitting motions has now passed. It was the middle of January. And now the motions working group is reviewing all the motions that have been submitted and assessing whether or not they indeed meet the criteria for a motion, whether they are aligned with the IUCN program of work, and whether or not some motions are overlapping with others and perhaps could be combined with others. There will be a time where some of the motions will be voted on electronically, and that will happen in the summer. And then the balance of the motions, and then any urgent motions that come up closer to the date of Congress, will be considered debated, and voted on at Congress. Now, learning from Marseille during the height of the COVID global pandemic, we have learned that a hybrid Congress is indeed possible. And so the upcoming Congress will be fully hybrid. There will be some activities that are on site, but there'll be a whole section of activities and programs and discussions and workshops that are available only virtually. So we're creating something for all of those who wish to participate, whether it's in person or online. Structure and format, there will be from the 9th to the 12th is the open forum. And this is the time where there are workshops, there are plenaries, there are discussion groups. While also at the same time, the exhibition or trade show is happening. And this is an opportunity for people to share their work, to advance their positions, and for just socializing and networking and finding ways to cooperate and collaborate with each other for greater impact in order to advance the program of work and the mission of IUCN. And then the final 3 days is the members' assembly, where we really discuss, debate motions that have been put forward, but also the elections take place for commission chairs and for members of council. Oh, fancy. I spoke in advance of my slides advancing forward. Sorry, Tracy, I missed that. So each Congress has a theme, and the key theme for this coming Congress, Powering Transformative Conservation. And I think something I wanted to emphasize, given the ever-shifting and challenging geopolitical environment that we are living in, I think that the Congress is happening at a critical time for the planet. And I think transitioning to a nature-positive economy and society is especially critical. And those that are leading the way, hopefully we will inspire those who may be taking a couple steps backward. But it's also a time for disruptive innovation and leadership for conservation. And I think what's exciting when you look at some of the new members of the board for CCIUCN, we're bringing in new voices, and we're constantly changing the voices and different approaches to the conservation of nature. I think that's critically important. And certainly scaling up resilient conservation action, reducing climate overshoot risks, and delivering on equity will forever be a focus for IUCN. It will also, of course, be a Congress that strives to be as sustainable as possible. It's happening in Abu Dhabi, which will be a new experience for many of us. And I just wanted to make a plug for some of the booths and pavilions that will be happening in the exhibition area throughout Congress. And there are still opportunities to participate in a booth or a pavilion. And certainly I know that the Commission on Education and Communication is looking to host a pavilion. If you want to be a sponsor, want to participate in the panels, discussions that'll be happening in that pavilion, please reach out to Sean Southey. I'm sure he'd be delighted to speak with you and engage you in that process. So sort of closing message for me is get engaged in some way. Join a commission if you haven't already, so that you can subscribe to the digital platform that allows us all to speak with each other, called IUCN Engage. And once you're part of the IUCN community, you can then review and comment on the motions. I encourage you to register to attend Congress, support a pavilion, host a booth, and you still have a few days to propose a forum session. So with that, I'm finished. So thank you very much. I hope to see you at Congress.
Fantastic. Thanks, Meg. That's great. And as you see in the chat, Sean will add a little bit more to that in the panel discussion after our break. Certainly whet my appetite for the Congress and the idea of going to Abu Dhabi, or even, again, as you mentioned, having the hybrid participation, which is a wonderful opportunity to really open the conversation to more people. So thanks so much again for stepping in. And again, as we've mentioned before, there is a Q&A. If people have questions for any presenters, you can add them in there, or you can put them in the chat. And if you want to show your appreciation for speakers, we apologize, the emojis aren't working, but you can use the chat to thank them for their time. Now, though, we're going to take a bit of a break. We are well aware of the effects of sitting in front of computers for too long, and with the Parks Plus Collective and our commitment to connecting people with nature, we try and incorporate nature breaks into all of our programs. And that's our plan right now, is to take a bit of a break, give people a chance to move around and to reconnect. And what we're going to be doing is nature networking. So you've been on your computers now for over a half an hour, longer for some of the members of the CCIUCN who have been helping present today. We'd like you to go connect to nature wherever you are. You might be lucky and be able to go outside into a beautiful forest. Maybe you just have a backyard you can go into. Maybe you have an apartment with a patio. Maybe it's just a window you can put your mouth up to and breathe some fresh air, or a house plant or a cat. But just trying to connect with something in nature that makes you feel connected to nature. And try not to spend the time to go and browse your phone, check your email, just to be in that moment of connection for around 25 minutes, just enough to lower your level of stress, let your body relax. Give your eyes a break, let your ears take a break, especially if you've been using headphones. Let your body move a little bit differently. Maybe you can get active, and to let your brain process some of the great ideas and things you've heard so far today. We also have a board, and my colleague Ebony will be putting a link in the chat for a nature networking board. So this is an opportunity for you to meet other people connected to the CCIUCN. So on this board, we'd like you to introduce us to yourself and to the nature where you are. Maybe it is that house cat. Maybe it's a park. So please go onto the Padlet board during your nature break, or take a picture you can post from your computer when you return. Post a photo of yourself in nature, where you are, add a description of your location, your work, maybe your education. Share what connects you with the CCIUCN and what most connects you with nature. And if you'd like to, it's optional. Add your professional contact information to your post, or put it on somebody else's post so you can comment that you'd like to get in touch with them. Maybe you're doing something similar. You can also use the QR code on the screen to access the Padlet, and you get an opportunity just to open it onto your phone. And that's, I think, the only acceptable use of your phone on your nature break here. And we'll be returning from the nature networking in 25 minutes. So at 11 o'clock Pacific, 12 o'clock Mountain, 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern, and 3 o'clock Atlantic. Of course, 3:30 if you're in Newfoundland. And we'll be watching for your posts on the Padlet there. Please enjoy getting to know some of the people in the CCIUCN community. And we're very excited to learn a bit more about the committee work, 30 by 30 work, and our great panel who will be sharing. So again, that link's in the chat. Thanks for the presenters so far, and everybody enjoy your break and your time in nature.
Oh, wow. It would be so cool to see some of our members in different pockets of the country get together in person and share some photos. Maybe putting some ideas in people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
Go
Yeah,
for
that's
some
great.
hikes together, CCIUCN member hikes.
Set up shop at the Tim Hortons there as you come into town, maybe.
CCIUCN take over Tim Hortons. All right, we're all back now and
Excellent.
good to get going. Thanks
That's
so much.
great. All right, and we will keep that Padlet board open that as this meeting progresses. If you have things you still want to share, we might get a little behind in approving just as we're doing other things here. But it is great to see people connect across the continent. It's such a great organization. So now we're just moving into our next segment here of the open house. So it's great that people got a chance to learn about the World Conservation Congress, the work of the CCIUCN in the last year. Now we're moving into learning a bit about some work on 30 by 30 and supporting the efforts of 30 by 30 through a dashboard. And then we'll have updates from the commissions and a panel discussion. And I did get all the panelists' information now, so thank you for that. Robin, who am I passing this over to talk about 30 by 30? I don't actually know who I need to promote to speaker.
Oh, Olaf Jensen, please.
Okay.
Over to you.
All right, Olaf, I will promote you now that I know that you're not Mike.
And can we get Mike Wong on the screen as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And just as you join Olaf and Mike, if you could just say hello, just so we know your sound is okay before you dive right in.
Hopefully you can hear me now.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Okay.
Classing us up with a tie there. That's nice. Nice to see you again. And
Good to
Mike,
see you. Would you like, I can share the presentation from my screen unless somebody else would like to share it.
why don't you go ahead? You can keep the timing. That's fantastic.
All right, let me just get the, okay.
Okay, so I'm seeing your build area.
All right, and then I'll just go to full screen here. Presentation mode. Okay.
Looks great.
And maybe Robin or Mike, I'll just when I'm going through this, I'll just ask one of you to put the link in the chat as well, since the hub itself is better viewed on a computer than on a phone or a tablet. So I'll just watch this briefly. So Robin asked I present this, even though this is an initiative from CCIUCN and the members of CCIUCN, but Robin was looking for a bit of a break between all of her speaking on this call. So I'll just jump down to the next one. So we're quite pleased after a few months of work, Mike, Robin, myself, working closely with Esri Canada to be able to provide you all with a link to a soft launch of this 30 by 30 hub site that we've been developing. So you might remember back, I think it was September, October of last year, we gave an overview of this project that we were working on. We've finally gotten to the point where we're able to provide you with a link so you can explore the site a bit on your own and see what we have available. You might remember from our discussion back in September, October, that the purpose of this was to support decision making, to support jurisdictions, governments, and others in looking at the possibilities and potential for how Canada might reach this ambitious 30% by 2030 target. So the fundamentals of the site haven't changed. There's a little somewhat complicated map there to illustrate kind of what's inside this 30 by 30 hub, but includes a number of pieces that all of which are quite interesting. The landing page itself, the hub site, gives an overview of what this thing is all about and what 30 by 30 is about. There is a CPCAD dashboard, which provides a link to the Canadian Protected and Conserved Areas database inside a web-based map exploration application that will allow you to explore what is currently protected and conserved in Canada, which is 13.7% of the country. And then really interesting pilot that we're quite pleased to launch is this Manitoba dashboard, this Manitoba web application. So we selected Manitoba for a number of reasons. Wanted to see if we could profile one jurisdiction in Canada, provide access to members to publicly accessible data in a way that would let them explore the data set, see what the conservation potentials are inside Manitoba. Interestingly, when you go to that dashboard, you'll see that almost 40% of Manitoba is covered by lands that have been identified as of interest to conservation or have conservations and measures in place in the province. So that tool and that particular page is a really interesting way to look at how at least one jurisdiction in Canada might reach the target. There is also another Explorer application I'll explain in a minute, and a really exciting story map that I'll also get to in a minute, as well as a user guide. So we presented the same slide or version of it back in September, and just as a reminder, we've been working closely with Esri to develop this online mapping tool. It includes, as I mentioned, CPCAD as a base map, conservation zones in various land use plans, key biodiversity areas, Indigenous protected and conserved areas, conservation priority lands, privately protected areas, and much, much more in various applications within the hub. The CPCAD dashboard, you'll see just a screen grab here is all the material inside CPCAD and the tool will let you look at the areas broken down by governance type, an area. You can track various metrics, change the base map, and generally dig around inside CPCAD. The Manitoba Dashboard Pilot Project, as I mentioned before, is quite interesting in that it compiles all the publicly accessible data available right now from the government of Manitoba on areas that have conservation measures in place or have been identified through various planning frameworks as of interest to conservation. And through this, you can explore the data itself, much like you can in the CPCAD page, understand where those areas are distributed, how they relate to other features on the landscape. You can change the base maps and generally dig around and get a better understanding of what the potential is for conservation. I think ideally CCIUCN would like to roll this out in other jurisdictions, but we decided Manitoba made a good pilot project for this hub site. Another feature here is the Explorer application, which again lets you build in more data sets, more data layers that are available through Esri and through the application window itself. So various essentially online geographic information system tools that will let you measure areas, sketch, export maps, zoom in, adjust transparency, essentially explore the data along with other data sets that are available to understand how these existing protected areas and potential protected areas relate to each other and relate to other features on the landscape. Interesting convergence of ideas. So some of you may be aware that the government of Quebec just released a similar interactive map of protected areas and OECMs in the province of Quebec. Their web app viewer also includes the ability to add shapefiles. And interestingly, it provides a breakdown of all the various categories of existing protected areas and proposed protected areas. So we're actually quite pleased that the work that CCIUCN is leading in this hub exercise is being replicated by other jurisdictions in Canada. So we see this complementarity is quite exciting. One other important feature in here that I encourage all of you to visit is the story map itself. So we thought a nice way to present this information about what is 30 by 30, why we're doing it, and what's inside the CCIUCN hub tool is a story map. So you can go to the story map page itself, dig around, have a look at what's in there, understand kind of the progression of this site and where CCIUCN would like to go with it. So I encourage you to visit that particular page within the hub and also to explore the overall hub itself. So you can link through this QR code, or even better, use the link in the chat to link to the CCIUCN 30 by 30 hub site and explore. What we're looking for right now is we're really encouraging members to dig into the site, have a look around, and then provide your input to info@cciucn.ca. Once we have collected some your thoughts, inputs, and ideas, we'll refine the site. We hope to have the French version of the site launched within a week or so, and we'll make that link available as well. Yeah, looking forward to your input. CCIUCN is quite excited about this initiative, and we've had quite a good time being part of this initiative so far. So we look forward to your comments. Voila. And Mike, Robin, anything else you want to add before Dawn cuts us off?
No, nothing to add, but thank you. It's an exciting initiative, and please, we're looking forward to feedback from our members. We're excited to share this exclusive sneak peek before the public launch with you all. So Dawn, we can move into our next segment, our panel. Thanks so much, Olaf, for giving the presentation, and Mike for all of your hard work that went into this, along with our colleagues at Esri.
Yeah, and I'm not going to cut you off because I think this is a fantastic tool. I'm really impressed. I wasn't sure if Mike was going to say anything, but I do have a question actually that came into the Q&A. Stephen Woodley was just asking about whether this database will include, or if there's a complementary initiative to look at the ecological corridors and how they fit into the 30 by 30 picture, and if there's an element that connects here, or where you envision that going.
Well, it's another great data layer that we can incorporate into it. So that's exactly the kind of feedback we're looking for as we go forward with this initiative, is what data layers are missing and can be added to make it even more useful for anyone that wants to explore existing and potential protected and conserved areas in Canada.
Fantastic, thanks. I don't see any other questions there. I see some compliments in the chat though. People see the value of the tool, and I'm sure we'll dig right into it. All right, thanks so much for presenting there. And at some point, Olaf and Mike will be put back to into attendee here, and you'll see lots of faces showing up on the screen because we are moving into our next segment here. And I'm just going to share so you can all see what's up. Quite excited that we've got an opportunity to hear from some of the commissions. And this is, I always really appreciate with the CCIUCN events, the amount of work that gets done globally that is relevant and accessible and usable and really just useful to Canadian practitioners is impressive. And I always find a lot of people coming into the field don't even know about it. And once they hear about it, just you can see the light bulbs start to go off of, wow, there's other people working in this space, advancing it, and they're here to help. So I'm really excited that we've got a panel here today. Axel Mohrenschläger, who's with the Species Survival Commission. We've got Stephen Woodley, has presented with us before as well, and it's the World Commission on Protected Areas. Sean Southey will be presenting the work of the Commission on Education and Communication. Melanie Zerba is here to join us and present on the Commission on Environmental, Economic, and Social Policy. And Salima Medwer, if I pronounce that correctly, Commission on Ecosystem Management. So what we've got lined up here is each of these presenters have 2 or 3 minutes to just present an update on 2024. What has their commission been up to? And they'll each present a couple of minutes here. And then we're going to have a discussion where they share a rose, a thorn, and a bud from the past year. So a success they've had, a frustration or an obstacle or a challenge they still see coming, and then a bud, a hope on the horizon. What's exciting that's coming up? And they've each shared a picture with me that they can use to explain those different roses, thorns, and buds. But we're going to start with their updates, not getting into the rose, thorns, and buds first. And Axel, we'll start with you here. So if you want to give us an update on the Species Survival Commission, please.
Sure, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much. Just a small warning, when Olaf was speaking, my internet was freezing up a bit. It might be the weight of the snowflakes, falling down on Calgary as we speak. But just in case, we'll just plod through it. Yeah, just in general for the Species Survival Commission, I just wanted to give a general overview, if you will. The Species Survival Commission is basically there to help save species, wherever they might be in the world. In whatever biome, ranging from mountains to deserts to the depths of the oceans within and beyond protected areas. We have, basically an approach to work worldwide in partnership with others to try and tackle the aligned challenges, if you will, of the biodiversity crisis, the climate crisis, and crises facing human livelihood. There are actually over 10,000 members now, as an update, as that number has been climbing in 2024 again. Distribution across 186 countries. And in the barometer of life, which you might otherwise know as the IUCN Red List, one is now past 157,000 species assessments, which is quite incredible when you think that's a science-based data-based and analytical sort of assessment for all of these species to basically try and understand what is the likelihood that they might slip to extinction. But beyond that, what are the threats that are driving so that we can identify interventions and actions to make a difference. Along with that, it can sometimes feel like a half glass full as we look at, the despair or the risk of things going extinct. We also have very much in 2024 now an emerging body of work around the green status of species aligned with the Red List. And what that is it's basically looking at the conservation legacy. How much of a difference has conservation made already for different species? What would the world have been like had conservation not been acting, for example? And then as we look forward, what is the recovery potential for those species if and when the world and different stakeholders were to get very serious? And so basically we can show the potential, the future lift that is possible based on science, based on assessments, based on realism, if you will. And so that is, I think, very engaging, not just within our community, but to governments, to donors, to industry worldwide. One of the things that we've been concentrating on a lot is the biodiversity paradox. What we mean by that is that the most biodiverse countries in the world actually are the ones that have some of the fewest resources, some of the fewest capacity. And so we're very much looking at how do we escalate the capacity, the potential in those types of areas. In terms of the cycle, we're looking at how do we best assess, how do we plan, how do we act, then communicate and network. And for that, we have 62,000 targets that are being pursued right now around the world. Overall, as you look at this from a Canadian perspective, as we all do, one of the things that's powerful is that there's something for everyone in a way. If you're a specialist on a species or dealing with certain challenges, you can join a specialist group of those folks like you around the world that work on similar kinds of taxa. If you're dealing with certain challenges, human-wildlife conflict, marine conservation issues, wildlife health issues, there is a body of colleagues that have more in common with you than your neighbor might where you live, that is right across the world. So a tremendous capacity working with the other commissions, working with IUCN Secretariat, working with governments across the world to do one thing, just to do our part to help save the world for generations to come.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Axel, and for that update and overview of such great work. We're going to pass it to Stephen Woodley now to talk about the World Commission on Protected Areas. So Stephen, over to you. And sorry, Stephen, your microphone doesn't seem to be picking you up. It might still be muted. Had to find you there.
There we go. Sorry
Much
about
better.
that.
There you go. Yeah.
It was, so I will go back to my slides here. And I think you can see that now. So I want to just spend a minute on the commission itself so you can understand it. There are about 3,000 members now in the commission. And before, where the commission used to be, tended to be older people from developed countries, that's completely flipped on its head. We're about 50-50 male, female. We have a very balanced age distribution, and we have an increasingly balanced distribution of people from all over the planet, which is good news. Like SSC, we're a big complex organization. We're made of specialist groups and themes and regions and task forces. In fact, there's so much going on within this structure that I used to know it all, and now I don't know it all, which I think is really good news. This is a slide from our impact report from last year. It shows the kind of the volume of work that's going on. The commission produces a journal. It had 49 technical documents produced last year, 39 peer-reviewed scientific publications, and those were downloaded 100,000 times. So I think huge impact there. I won't go through all of these numbers, but so the highlights for the year ahead, we're going to continue to work with the CBD parties. The commission is really focused on area-based conservation, on PAs and OECMs and connectivity, and making sure they're in the right places, they're done equitably, they meet all the qualitative elements of Target 3, but also we're very focused on Targets 1 and 2 of the CBD. We have a new task force on the Antarctic and Southern Ocean to get MPAs there under an international treaty. We have a lot of experts there. It would be huge. That's been a big challenge for the world. We've failed at to put MPAs in the Southern Ocean. We had a science paper last year on does conservation work? And that was done with colleagues from the SSC, actually, Axel. And it was listed by The Guardian as one of the most positive conservation stories in the year. So I can put that in the chat if people are interested. We have a very strong specialist group on conservation finance, helping parties and helping the CBD navigate this $70 billion challenge to do area-based conservation on the planet. We're doing things that we've always done, like building constituencies for nature. We're trying to increasingly focus on the nexus of biodiversity and climate, where PCAs interact with and contribute to climate mitigation. And this year we're going to be spending a lot of time on the World Parks Congress, which was talked about previously. So that's us, and I'll stop. I think that's my 2 minutes up.
Fantastic. Yeah, so much to cover, but such incredible work this past year and on an ongoing level. Sean, over to you.
Thank you so much, Don, and thank you, everyone. First, I want to recognize that we have a very strong contingent of Canadians in our steering committee in CEC. Marie-Philippe, our MP, as many of you know, is with us from Parks Canada. Meg Beckel, of course, is here with us as well, but also David Ainsworth with the CBD and Karen Keenley's side of Parks Canada as an interface with WCPA are all on our steering committee, and we have many wonderful Canadians helping drive our work. I've chosen to speak about education and our education work, in particular when we rose, thorn, and bud, Don. So I'm going to save some of our work on education till we move to that part of the agenda. So I'll touch on the other 3 key areas where we focus. Meg and a woman, Anna Mondry, drive our work on what we call reimagining communications, nature communications. And an effort has been to really ensure that this cohort of the leadership and the CEC team leave behind more publications on useful to the union. I'm a second-term counselor, second-term chair, so this is part of that handover process. And I'm super excited that we have 8, if not 9, publications coming out, of which we think 5 will go through the key IUCN publication format, so they go in front of members with ISBN numbers. There's one on how to build a strategic communication plan if you want to run a campaign, a shift to behavior, whether it's to encourage a transplanting exercise with Axel, or whether you want a new protected area with Stephen. This is the tool you would use to drive that behavior change. We have guides on nature, white papers on nature-based education, guides on how to green your school grounds, on nature-based leadership, an emerging body of work. We're looking at a lot how you reshift the sense of what leadership is, so it's based on nature and ecological principles. Second area of work is our work on Nature for All, and another Canadian, Jose, out of Parks Canada, runs this work on behalf of the whole community. And Parks Canada has been doing that for 8 years now, an incredible commitment. And I want to commend the Parks Canada team for their leadership on Nature for All. Now over 620 members, continue to surface innovations, continue to surface best practices, distill those, collect those, and then distribute them. In 3 days, it is Valentine's Day, and we will do, I think, our 3rd or 4th Love Fest, where you share your love story for nature. So if you have not shared your love story yet, do go on to natureforall.global and share a love story for Valentine's Day, the biggest love story of all, our love for nature. I will say that we are transitioning out of a leadership with Parks Canada. So we are looking, after 9 years, it's the right time to progress the Nature for All family to a new place. So would really encourage anyone who thinks they might like to step up and play a leadership role in managing this beautiful community. Please feel free to reach out to me, to Karen Keenley-Side, to Cheryl Charles, or to Yosei directly at Parks Canada and the Park Canada team. And I'll stop there. Thank you, Don.
Fantastic. And what a great hook at the end of your presentation. I'm sure a lot of people are now scheming what kind of relationships they could generate. So that's really exciting. Okay, so Melanie Zerba, you're up next here. So I'm looking forward to your update.
Thanks so much, Don. Thanks for the invitation from you and Robin. It's always great to come and share about the Commission's work. So I'm with the Commission for Environmental, Economic and Social Policy. I have just a few slides to share with you to give you a little bit of background for folks who are perhaps a little less familiar with our work at the global level. Oh, sorry. Slideshow not share that. Okay, so just to share our vision and mission statement. Thanks, Don, for the thumbs up. So our vision is a world where sustainability, social justice, diversity, and equity are valued in nature conservation and development. The mission is to contribute to the IUCN mission by generating and disseminating knowledge, mobilizing influence, and promoting actions to harmonize the conservation of nature with the critical social, cultural, environmental, and economic justice concerns of human societies. So CEASP carries a lot of different areas. We're quite a large commission because of that, with many steering committee members. So this is the way our commission is organized. So we have our steering committee, we have regions, thematic groups, specialist groups, and what we call knowledge baskets and working groups, as well as task forces that are put together around particular issues for a certain amount of time and then disassembled once we feel we have addressed those issues. And I'll be mentioning one of those task forces during our rose, thorn, and bud discussion. So as I mentioned, there's quite a few people on the steering committee, including myself. I'm a thematic chair, the governance, equity, and rights theme, but we also have a number of other themes, including environmental peace building, Indigenous peoples and environment, human well-being, and sustainable livelihoods, economics and regenerative finance, the natural resource governance framework, which has also entered into the Secretariat's work. And we have a youth thematic chair, which is one of our newest themes to be added, especially important post the youth review and the new directions for youth and young professionals and IUCN at large. And then, of course, we have representation from each region. And just because some of my colleagues mentioned publications, I'd be remiss not to mention Policy Matters, which is our publication, peer-reviewed publication that does really great work, academic articles, as well as other contributions, artistic contributions, and our next issue will be released at Congress. So I'll leave it there for now. Thanks so much, Don.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. And our final presenter now, so our final panel update here, it's on the Commission on Ecosystem Management, and that's Salima. So Salima, I will pass it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hopefully you can hear me well. Good.
It's a little bit quiet, actually. Could you speak closer to the computer or?
I'll try to speak a little loud. Maybe
That's
a little
already
louder.
better. Yeah, that's great.
Sometimes that I'm a little quiet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really nice to be here with everyone today. So my name is Salima Medwar. I'm the regional co-chair for North America for the Commission on Ecosystem Management. And I'm pleased to present on behalf of my commission chair, Angela Andrade, on the information pertaining to our commission. So what is CEM? We're one of the great 6 commissions in IUCN. We focus on how ecosystems are managed as a summary. So whether they are natural or modified so that they can remain resilient, support biodiversity, and provide benefits to people. We are a network of over 2,000 members from all over the world, including scientists, policymakers, and practitioners, and about 25% of our members are young professionals, which reflects an exciting opportunity to increase young professional engagement and just in general, the interest in this space from young professionals. So what does CM do? At our core, CM helps create practical solutions for managing ecosystems in a sustainable way. That means we do things like develop knowledge tools. So we played a major role in shaping the IUCN global standard for nature-based solutions and the definition. As well, we also played an important role in the Red List of Ecosystems, which is now being used by countries worldwide. We also bridge science and policy by working closely with governments, NGOs, and local communities to help integrate ecosystem-based approaches into decision-making. We also collaborate globally, so our members contribute to major initiatives like the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, as well as the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. And so with growing concerns over climate change and biodiversity conservation, it's become a very important space for us to play in. And so we've played a key role in just integrating these approaches to ecosystem management. So whether it's restoring degraded ecosystems or making sure nature-based solutions are defined and implemented in a thoughtful and practical way for countries to implement in their policies and practice, or whether we're helping countries assess ecosystem risk through the Red List of Ecosystems, CM is working to bridge that gap between science, policy, and bringing all of this into action. Yeah, that's my short and sweet 2-minute introduction.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It did cut out a little bit quieter at the end. So when we were doing the rose thorn bud, if you could be mindful to speak towards the mic, that would be great. But a really great update and presentation. So the plan now for those watching, and the panelists have been preparing this, which is great, is as I mentioned, we've asked them to share a rose, a thorn, and a bud, just sort of taking this step back from their work and the details of their work. Say, yeah, what has gone well? What have you maybe hit obstacles with, and where are you really hopeful for the future? And this, again, especially for people who have joined, who this is your first CCIUCN AGM and open house. It gets you that sense to see the value of this work, which I think is incredibly valued to the entire conservation community across the country and the continent and the globe. So we're going to start with Axel again. We're going to go back to the beginning here and sort of go back through these rounds where they talk about their thorn, their rose, and their bud. And for the presenters, just let me know when you want me to go to your next slide, and we'll keep moving through here. So Axel, over to you.
Well, sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, you can just pop right to the next one. I'm choosing to start with the thorn. Maybe that's cheating, but best to get that out of the way. So one of the things is just very general is that while we reflect on positive impacts that we make, and we should, in terms of, green status potential, in terms of the conservation action, as Stephen was talking about from our collaborative science paper and on the value of conservation action, we nevertheless need to be alert and true to the fact that species extinctions are happening probably every day, and that this is a huge call for action. I'm not one about doomsday scenarios, but that is something that within SSC we celebrate the advancements, the progress that we're making, but we're always aware of the very serious situation that the world faces in terms of the species that we know and those species that we do not yet know, and species that get attention and species that might not get attention. So that is a thorn in our side, but at the same time, it's a calling. It's a reason why we do what we do, because we must make a difference. I remember from a previous assessment, a previous analysis was estimating that in the absence of conservation, species loss would have been about 8 times higher across 40 years than it has been. It shows conservation works. It shows conservation makes an impact. We do make a difference. We just need to do more of it. How do we do it, or who does it? Let's go to the next one. Is a rose, I think, is just the collective community around the world that is taking on these challenges, together with other commission secretariat and governments. And so since 2017, we've had a 30% increase in SSC groups around the world, 157 specialist groups. But one thing that I sort of saw under the rose here as well is that, within SSC on a global level, we've had almost a 14% increase in women in leadership positions, which is outpacing actually by far the progress in terms of the number of women that are in the commission in general. So it's a disproportionate growth in leadership of women. And so we're very much celebrating that. That's still not good enough for sure, but better than 27% in 2017 that we're at 41% now. So next is in terms of BUD, is that on the one hand, we also have national species specialist groups. So we have, on the one hand, 20 centers of species survival now in the world, but also a relatively new initiative of having national specialist groups, primarily that are picked now for very biodiverse countries. And that has been coming on, and that is something that is a BUD in the making, if you will, of how we better translate, in many ways, action, if you will, on a national level. One of the things we can really celebrate, and I think is a seed for the future as well, is that in terms of SSC data, which we track collectively very ambitiously, we saw and celebrated and had as a press release from our recent SSC leaders meeting in Abu Dhabi, the fact that over the last 5 years, the amount of conservation action has actually doubled out of SSC. And that is very cognizant, very deliberate, very strategy-driven shift. We do not just want to assess things and plan things. We want action on the ground to make a difference, and we're very much seeing that. So that is, I think, again, a great potential for the future. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. And what a great round to start us off with there. So thanks so much for those sharings and where you see things going. Our next is Stephen. So your rose, thorn, and bud. And again, just tell me to go on when you're ready. Pardon me, Stephen, you're muted again. It looks like it's just not.
It's worthwhile reflecting for a minute on how successful commissions are writ large. I mean, these are volunteer commissions, and they produce the vast majority of the science and the peer-reviewed policy that's done inside IUCN. I put the impact report in the chat. That's the first time the WCPA has ever done an impact report, and it's astonishing how much work is going on. Think about the Red List. I'll step outside WCPA. I'm also a member of the SSC. The Red List is produced by 10,000 volunteers around the world. And it's the way we're keeping track of global biodiversity. Just think if we kept track of the banking system with a network of volunteers, people would consider it mad. But yet we're doing that inside an IUCN commission. So it's astonishing how much work is being done. If you stripped away the commissions, IUCN would not be, well, it wouldn't be remotely the organization it is today. So continuing on, my thorn is a kind of a thorny one, actually, amidst the madness of current events. We've probably missed the fact we just slipped by 1.5 degrees warming, and all of our work is going to be impacted and is being impacted by climate change. The species work, the protected areas work, our celebration of life, because this is the overarching problem. And I would suggest that it's all of our problems in every single aspect of what we do. If we don't keep this in mind and work actively towards this, we'll be, we won't succeed. And there's no solution to climate, not one single model, without nature conservation. Nature conservation is a must in terms of contributing to solving the climate crisis. And continuing on, I'll end on a more positive note, Dawn, and that's finally, the UNFCCC and the CBD are starting to be good dance partners again. And in 1992, when those two treaties were made, they were supposed to work very well together, and they've been working in silos since. And we're really starting to see some movement now to make these two things work together so that they can solve common problems in a coordinated way. Thanks.
That's great, thanks. And it's actually not coming to my mind, but could you just let us know what the acronym UNFCCC is?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So
Thank
that's
you.
the climate change treaty, and CBD is the Convention on Biological Diversity.
Yeah,
I'm in my own mind. So
no, that's okay. I blanked on it too, and helpful for the interpreters as well. That's great. Yeah, thanks so much, Stephen. Yeah, and I appreciate that perspective both within and beyond the WCPA and how they're connected. Sean, over to you.
Thank you. And I think it's important to understand the context when we think about education and IUCN. If we look back 2 years ago, there was no team, there was no centralized force. In fact, we had a director general who would, literally push people aside and say, we don't do education. And so this year has been an incredible rose year for IUCN and education. Director General Gretel Aguilar is part of that. Many of the IUCN CEC members from Canada have been leaders in that space. And just to punctuate a few points, we started with the first ever nature-based education Congress with UCLA in the spring. We created a task force on nature-based education, working with the CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity, and UNESCO. We hosted a focused effort on education at the Cali COP. At the global level, we have now, out of that Cali COP, a global plan of action on education for biodiversity as a declared need that will be ready in 2 years when the CBD meets again. More internal to IUCN, I spent last week with council in Guatemala and happened to know that the new 20-year vision has an explicit section on education, and the 4-year quadrennial, these are both draft for members' review as we go through the World Conservation Congress, has one of the 24 outcomes is also on nature-based education. So it's an incredible year of positioning IUCN to recognize that education is transformational when it comes to creating a culture of conservation and being prepared for nature-based solutions. On the thorny side, just because I love this complex, thorny part of IUCN, there are 150 plus people from 40 countries with 10 working groups and 10 partners in our task force. And talk about the complications of IUCN. How do you manage so many committed, smart, thoughtful, engaged people to a productive outcome? And we took a huge leap of faith, making it a very open-ended task force by design. And I'm incredibly proud that in our last meeting, all 10 working groups are functional and working, excited with leadership. And it just shows me the power of this community to convene and to lift. What excites me for the future, the BUD, we have a dream. We want to do a nature-based education pavilion at the World Conservation Congress. It will be a schoolyard in a school ground. It will be run by and populated by teachers and students, high school students from around the world. We're working with the Terry and Sarah and the Center for Global Education to ensure that there's actual youth there. Several Canadian partners have already committed support. My own organization, CWF, the Sustainable Forestry Initiative. We're looking for a really interesting platform. We're looking for 10,000 from 25 partners. It's a very different way of fundraising, but we love the idea of the community coming together to support this incredible piece of putting education, youth, high school kids the learning paradigm right in the center of our Congress, especially with the vision and program there, the global plan of action. We hope that many of you will join us. Just reach out. I will close just by recognizing Jesse Hildebrandt. We had our IUCN CEC champion, and Jesse was recognized in Canada. And since he's on and he's now a board member, I'm just want to continue to recognize Jesse, and there's so many people of this community who do exceptional work. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much. And a great shout out there. Jesse and I got to collaborate earlier in the year or end of last year, and it was great to learn about his work and get excited about it like you. All right, I think Melanie is next here, and we'll put you right into you there, right into your rows, and I'll let you just tell me what order you'd like to go.
Okay, thanks so much. Sorry for the last minute request.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll begin with the rows, Reimagining Conservation, which is an initiative that is aiming to transform thinking and engagement around conservation. So CESP is quite involved in this initiative, as is other commissions such as Sean's, CEC. But within CESP, we have 3 focus areas. So reimagining justice. So this is aimed at advancing evidence-based dialogue and practice relating to human rights and conservation. And the next is reimagining funding. So this is focusing on finance and making funding more inclusive for Indigenous peoples and local communities, youth and women, in order to achieve climate and biodiversity goals. And the third is reimagining leadership, which is aiming at advancing dialogue and evidence-based research for conservation leadership, and what it needs to look like in the future to support protection of the planet. So that's the rows. And then I'll go to the bud next. So this image is an initiative that I think is quite familiar in Canada, the Conservation Through Reconciliation Partnership, but it relates to something broader happening within IUCN that CESP has been playing quite a leadership role in, along with WCPA and members of the Secretariat. And it's this advancement of reconciliation within IUCN at large, and CESP has assembled with other partners a task force that is focused on reconciliation. And this work is based on the really important resolution 119, which is the renunciation of the doctrine of discovery, which I believe the lead of the Law Commission said was one of the most important resolutions to come out of the IUCN in recent history. So that is very exciting and hopeful, but that relates to the thorn, and sorry to end on the thorn. It's challenging to find financial resources and supports for this reconciliation work, but it is a bit of a hopeful thorn, I think, because of the task force and all of the people behind it, behind the reconciliation work. I think this will come in the future, especially after the next World Conservation Congress in Abu Dhabi, where a lot of this work will be highlighted and be presented in various formats. So it's a thorn, but not really a thorn. Thanks so much, Don.
No, that's great. And you're totally right on your instinct there. That wove together really nicely. Okay, so that's great. So our last rose thorn bud here. So we're going to pass it to Salima for the last words here, and how you can weave this together.
Awesome, thank you. So I've touched on a bit of the strengths that we have in CM, but one of our biggest strengths is just the breadth of the work that also overlaps at times with other commissions, and we're always really keen to collaborate in that space. But we've made quite a significant impact across multiple areas of ecosystem management. So the diagram I chose to share here is just a high-level snapshot of the key areas of focus, all of which contribute to advancing global conservation. So just a quick couple highlights, because I understand we're a bit out of time. But I've mentioned the red list of ecosystem. It's now being considered as a key indicator for the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which I think is a really cool endeavor. Defining nature-based solutions. We have a nature-based solutions thematic group that does excellent work in this space, developing global standards and actively working with different stakeholder groups to create additional frameworks or tools that can better push the work in that space of having consistency, which is a key piece. Ecosystem restoration as well. We've collaborated with the Society for Ecological Restoration on the principles of ecosystem restoration and standards of practice. So working with FAO for the UN Decade on Restoration. And we also have a human health and ecosystems thematic group that has prepared and developed games and videos to educate youth on ecosystem conservation's importance for human health. And we also have a rewilding and cultural practices thematic group that produced the principles of rewilding and published a book with Routledge. Another edited open access book on cultural practices in ecosystem management will also be published soon, so stay tuned for that. We can move to the thorn. So for my thorn, I picked this picture because I feel it conceptualizes the issue that we feel is most faced when we're trying to put out these frameworks and important research, making sure that it is still implemented. So while a lot of countries have adopted, for example, the nature-based solutions definition, as well as ecosystem governance, recognizing the importance of these tools that we're putting out, building consensus for implementation is a consistent challenge. So in my picture, I chose on the left, the conventional infrastructure is still something that we're trying to overcome so that practices like living shorelines are the preferred approach. So the adoption is a bit slow. We understand that there's also fragmented policy that makes it a big hurdle for us to implement or ensure that these tools don't just sit on a shelf, but are used practically and are helping our members implement this work. So to summarize the thorn, it's really broader public and stakeholder engagement in ecosystem action is something that we're trying hard to build and a consistent challenge. We can move to Bud. So looking ahead, we see a lot of exciting opportunities for our commission to continue making an impact in this space. One of the biggest areas of growth is building the next generation of conservation leaders, while also strengthening key frameworks that guide ecosystem-based management. So key areas for us is expanding young professional engagement. So we have 25% of our members being young professionals, and we see a real potential in this space to support and amplify their voices and contributions through the Young Professional Network. And we're really excited to have our Young Professional Network lead represented in the Youth Advisory Committee as well. So we're excited for that. We're also looking to grow momentum around nature-based solutions and the red list of ecosystems. We anticipate more widespread adoption in national policy frameworks through our engagements and building better communication. So the picture that I've picked for the Bud kind of helps put onto a page what we feel is really important in this work is building awareness, appreciation, building appetite for implementing tools that when people look at the tools, they can see themselves reflected and understand how to implement that work. So another piece that we're very excited for, just to wrap up, is our role in IUCN's future vision. So a couple people have mentioned it already, but the 20-year vision and the 2026-2029 program, we feel there's an opportunity to shape the direction of ecosystem-based conservation at this stage at the global level. So yeah, this is just a couple things that we're really excited to participate in.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what a great way to weave it all back together. You know, even as you spoke, and certainly as every other presenter spoke, you kind of go, oh, well, there's an education component, or there's a finance component, or a cultural component. And I think again, that's what's such a rich conversation that the CCIUCN and the IUCN writ large does, is show how all these many different commissions together are more than the sum of their parts. And I really do appreciate with all our presenters. I encourage people in the chat to just give a thank you to our presenters, if you can just show your appreciation. And thank you all for preparing for this panel today. Ebony will bump you back to attendees. Don't be offended. We're just going to move to a wrap up here with Robin. This has been a wonderful day to be a part of. And Robin, I'm going to pass it over to you to close us out here.
Thanks so much, Don. Thank you, all our presenters. I think we are so privileged as the Canadian Committee for IUCN to be able to bring this information that's happening at the IUCN and international level into the Canadian context. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us today. Thank you, Don, and thank you, Kate, for all your work organizing this event. There's lots to come from us this year, so please stay tuned. Don't forget to pay your membership dues. And we'll be in touch. You can reach out to us at the info@cciucn.ca inbox if you have any questions or comments, and we can pass those along where needed. Have a great day, and I hope you all get back outside.